Hey, good morning, y'all. Josh's Severe Weather, a very active week of weather coming. We've got all kinds of severe weather to talk about, as well as flooding, winter weather, strong winds, you name it. We're going to be talking about a very busy end to the month of February, and that continues into the start of March. I'm going to share my screen with you here, and here's what we are looking at least through the end of this week and beginning of the weekend. A lot of snow coming in the form of three storm systems. The third one's the one that's going to have the biggest punch across the country. That is this one here. Moving into the West Coast right now, it'll be taking a southern track into Texas by the middle of the week. And Thursday into Friday on the cold side, we're going to see a threat for heavy snowfall starting somewhere in the midsection and carrying up into the Great Lakes and Northeast. That is, of course, on the tail of two other storms, which I'm going to talk about here as well. We have had a lot of severe weather last night as a derecho moved through Oklahoma and surrounding states. That is now advancing into Illinois and has weakened, but is moving very quickly. I'm going to talk about the severe weather with that and the threat this afternoon. We are also becoming more concerned in the weather community with another outbreak of severe weather farther south as we head towards Thursday and maybe into Friday of next week. A tornado outbreak and severe wind outbreak is looking like it's going to unfold again across parts of the deep south and east Texas here as we start into Thursday and carrying into the southeast on Friday as well. So a very big area that is getting covered by major significant weather as we get to the beginning of the month of March. And details are still going to be a bit changeable here the next few days. So what you see on this map now may not be the exact forecast or what we exactly get, but a general outline of what I am expecting here. So, wow, lots to talk about. First, I want to show you all the water vapor satellite imagery from Tropical Tidbits since last night. The first thing that sticks out to you is this massive storm here over the southern central parts of the states. That has moved so quickly that it started this time yesterday in New Mexico and is now already advancing into Illinois. A very strong upper level low and attendant front here, stretching from Texas into Illinois, and a lot of moisture with this. It is also going to pull in colder air with it and produce some wintry weather in the Great Lakes today, advancing into the Northeast tonight and continuing into tomorrow morning. We still continue to have a strong subtropical ridge of high pressure, keeping areas on the Gulf Coast very warm with respect to average. It has felt like April and May here for several days. That will continue to be the case here right on through this week. Off to the west, you see another big storm moving southeastward down towards the Oregon coastline and Northern California. That is going to be the front runner of another massive storm, which is going to dig down into Texas and then cut up into the east. And the exact track still a bit uncertain, but models have shifted farther north than the video I showed you on Friday. So the warm air looks like it's going to be in play here, but how far north is really the biggest question mark. And I still don't know the exact answer. I don't want to lie to you guys. I can put what I want on the map, but it is still shifted some, and I bet you it'll shift a little bit more as we head on into the second part of the week. A ton of severe weather last night. We had all kinds of strong wind reports in West Texas, New Mexico, the Front Range here, and then tornado and severe thunderstorm watches and warnings. I am seeing reports of tornado damage in the Norman, Oklahoma area, and maybe a fatality somewhere in western, I think Cheyenne, Oklahoma as well. So some very strong winds. In fact, we had wind gusts as high as 115 miles per hour that were measured. That was in Culberson, Texas, 103 knots. That is 115 miles per hour, and a derecho that kind of moved from the west-southwest to the east-northeast, which is very rare, by the way. We don't see derechos this far south, typically speaking. Usually they're in the summertime, somewhere up in here, and then into the mid-Atlantic. But that was the case here. Very strong upper low moved northeast. Things moved along at 80, 90 miles per hour last night. Now our storm center is moving into Iowa, and we have a lot of rain impacting parts of eastern Iowa, Illinois, now expanding into Wisconsin. As it gets farther north and east, we'll have colder air in place. So the Lake Michigan, Lake Superior, Lake Huron area will see snow and even some frozen precipitation today. We also had some reports of light snow yesterday over New England. Not a big deal at this point. A bigger storm looms, though, for you here in the next couple of days. And I will zoom in so you all can see kind of where things are now. And Fortunately, we don't have any severe thunderstorm watches and warnings in effect anymore. We've lost some instability, but we still have a quick moving storm with a lot of moisture. So, nonetheless, a very nasty day here with thunderstorms expected in Illinois, maybe even into southwestern Michigan. Here's our hazard map, and you can see a large section of the country is under a wind advisory from Kansas and Oklahoma east into Virginia and southward into the Atlanta, Birmingham, and Montgomery areas. On the northern part of the storm, we have winter storm warnings over the superior shoreline of Minnesota into Wisconsin. Winter storm warnings starting tonight into tomorrow morning across the interior of the Northeast, getting close to New York City, but not quite that far south. We've got to get upstate just a little bit to see more snow. But we do have winter storm or winter weather advisories from State College and Clearfield, Pennsylvania, eastward to Allentown and eastward to New York City, including all of Long Island, and then spreading north into the southern part of Maine and into central and northern New York State. We also have winter weather advisories across much of Michigan, north of Detroit, as well as central Wisconsin and um, northern parts of Minnesota. Sorry, I drew a blank there. Red flag warnings where strong winds will create low fuel and the threat for wildfires in this region here. Next storm moves in to the west. We have blizzard warnings across the entire Sierra Nevada. Winter weather advisories continuing where we had blizzard weather over the weekend in Southern Cal and the mountains. We have advisories across Nevada into the Salt Lake City area with winter storm warnings in the higher elevations and winter storm warnings all the way to the coast of Oregon and Southwest Washington down into Napa Valley with advisories across interior parts of the coastal range of Central California. And not to forget the Southeast, although the weather's been quieter, we do have some dense fog issues potentially here in the interior of the Carolinas, the PD Basin, as well as the upper Gulf Coast of Florida and over the eastern and central parts of the Dakotas. So the European shows our first storm here quickly moving through Iowa. You can see winter weather continuing to spread north and east this morning and into especially this afternoon across the upper Great Lakes and then expanding eastward. Our storm track is actually going to run into some drier, colder air and eventually reform off the coast. This is the storm that could have been for New York. It'll still be a snowfall for New York, maybe a plowable snow, but higher amounts are going to look like they're going to stay north of you. I would not be surprised if somebody maybe in Westchester County ended up with several inches, but the gradient again is right here across the big cities, but at least we're seeing some snow, and that's a first for us, New York and on southward. We just haven't seen much accumulating snow this winter. That's going to move out away from Boston here tomorrow evening. Next storm moves out onto the plains tomorrow night into Wednesday. It'll be a mainly light snowfall from the Dakotas on into the interior of the Northeast, and there'll be some rain and thunderstorms developing later on Wednesday over parts of the deep south into the Tennessee Valley. This should not produce a lot of severe weather, but could produce locally strong wind and some heavy rainfall here as we head into Wednesday. The bigger storm is moving southward into the southeastward into the southwest with heavy snow across parts of Nevada. It may snow around Vegas again, north of Phoenix and Tucson, but not by much. And as we head on into Thursday morning, we see the moisture feed returning to Texas and Oklahoma. Heavy rain and storms expected by the afternoon on Thursday across the south central states. And then as low pressure forms and deepens in northeast Texas Thursday evening, we will likely see a tornado outbreak here across the Arklatex and spreading into Arkansas and northern Mississippi Thursday night, coming at night. And there could be a few stronger tornadoes as well, but we'll have to see exactly how that plays out. I will say at this point, probably a moderate risk is what I expect will eventually happen, and it's probably going to be across northern Louisiana, southern Arkansas, and surrounding areas. That could shift a little bit, but that's the area that I'm most concerned with. As this low spreads northeastward and cold air follows, some wet snow could mix in all the way down to the Red River here in Oklahoma. Not a big snowfall, not this far southward, but as we get on into Friday morning, we see a stripe of heavier snow forming somewhere in Arkansas and the Ozarks into Missouri, and then spreading up. Now, a couple days ago, the Ohio River was the target zone for heavy rain, or heavy snow, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, in Kentucky and Cincinnati and southern Indiana, it looks like we're going to be primarily rain at this point as the low pressure track has shifted northwestward. The models just continue to drive the cold a little too far south, and now they're playing catch up and correcting. The GFS is farther north. I think it's too far north, but I do like the European because it seems to be kind of a middle of the road model. Does that mean it's going to nail it? I don't know, and I probably don't think so. This is still 4 to 5 days out, but we're seeing more consistency. It's the GFS versus the world here. When I say the world, the Canadian, the European, and the German icon. But it very much looks like a big snow somewhere, maybe from the St. Louis area up to about Detroit and across interior parts of Pennsylvania and Western Maryland, and then spreading across New Jersey, New York City, and then I think eventually the interior of the Northeast. This low track over the Delmarva is too far inland for it to be a big snow across Maryland, Delaware, Jersey, and southeast Pennsylvania. But you don't have to get too far north where the cold air is certainly in place for this to be a big snowfall in northeastern Pennsylvania and around Lake Erie and across much of interior and central and southern New England. Northern New England actually misses this one. Same goes for Quebec. I think it goes south of you, but still a chance that this could shuffle north and south. In fact, I'm going to show you guys, I put together a composite of the four big models. The GFS sticks out like a sore thumb in that it's got the heavy snow north of St. Louis and just south of Chicago, and then especially across New York State into central New England. It kind of gyps New York City and Philly and Pittsburgh with heavy snow. However, the European, the Canadian, and to some extent the icon shows this being more of an Ohio Valley storm, especially central Illinois and Indiana, but even across northern and central parts of Pennsylvania. And the icon and the Canadian still say New York City and Allentown, this could be a major snowfall. The European is north of New York City. It says maybe more as we get into the interior of the Northeast. And the GFS says no to both areas and says this is an I-90 New York State thruway storm up into parts of Boston. The icon, by the way, this has higher snow amounts because it is a snow total right on through the end of the week. That includes the storm we're going to get here tomorrow, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. Here's the NAM. You can see how quickly things have moved along. Heavy rain and thunderstorms this morning around Chicagoland, Milwaukee, spreading across Ohio. This afternoon, we'll see redevelopment of storms in here, which could be locally strong to severe. We'll also see heavy snow falling from northern Michigan up to northeastern Minnesota, and an area of freezing rain farther north than what we saw last week. So central lower Michigan, southwest Ontario, and eventually into north central Pennsylvania. And you can see this will be a big snowfall across the UP of Michigan later today into tonight. That spreads eastward. Our threat for severe weather is mainly going to be across Ohio, northern Kentucky, maybe sneaking into West Virginia. But by dark tonight, 6, 7 o'clock, we'll see that fade and just some heavy rain over western and southern PA, as well as the mid-Atlantic region. As we get on into tomorrow night and Wednesday morning, the next storm gets going here in the upper Midwest. Not as big a storm, but something we'll be watching here. And as I move us eastward here into the Northeast, you all will see the rain moves into Pennsylvania, some frozen precipitation and heavier snow over the northern tier here later this evening and especially tonight. That spreads into New York City. It'll start as several hours of snow this evening and then switch over to maybe just some rain. Some models show this rain snow line a little farther south of New York, maybe down to 78 towards Toms River, New Jersey. But it definitely looks like a big snow somewhere across the Hudson Valley and into New England, including Boston. Not so much, though, in Maine. It'll be a little bit lighter as we get up here. And Montreal, Quebec, those areas could see significant snow as well. The European model, I'm sorry, this is the NAM model, shows a 2-day snowfall of potentially 6 to 12 inches in this zone in here, as well as up the St. Lawrence Valley. New York, it only shows about an inch, though. So definitely not going to be the same. Severe weather, we see strong close low over Iowa this morning, moving across the Chicagoland area later this morning. And out ahead of it, we've got some strong lift and fast winds aloft that could produce some severe weather in here. I'll show you that slight risk in just a little bit here. And the GFS model is snowier farther south across New York City, 4 to maybe 6 inches of snow here, with even higher amounts over a foot around Syracuse and all the way over to Albany and western parts of Mass, even 6 to 12 here over parts of Maine. So the NAM is warmer than the GFS. As we head into next weekend, I should say, or this weekend, we see kind of twice that here with another big snow across this region. So somebody between now and this time next week could see 3 feet of snow across New York or interior New England. So very interesting setup here. All right, let's talk about severe weather real quick. Today we have a slight risk from central Illinois into eastern parts of Ohio and a 5% chance for tornadoes across central and southern Ohio, including Columbus, Dayton, Youngstown, and on southward. A 2% risk of tornadoes later this morning into the afternoon around Indianapolis, all the way over to about Peoria, and mainly a wind threat here. We're looking at a 5% chance actually a 10% chance of severe wind from central Illinois all the way over close to Wheeling, West Virginia. Tomorrow, we will see a break in the action as far as severe weather goes. The next storm could produce some thunderstorms on the West Coast, and then a marginal risk as we get to Wednesday night from East Texas on over to about Nashville and Northwest Georgia. As we get to day 3, we continue to see day 4, we start to see in the afternoon in East Texas a pretty decent 30% risk of severe weather. And as we get to nighttime, all the way into the ARCLA miss, I think this could get enhanced maybe to at least an enhanced risk, but probably even a moderate risk as we get closer to the event, as models begin to agree a little bit more. There's a lot of instability, and I'll show you there's also quite a bit of wind shear in this region and here. So tornadoes, I think, and a few of them could be strong across this region. And then in the southeast, we see the threat for severe weather, and I think there'll be some tornadoes in here as well across Georgia and the Carolinas Friday afternoon and evening as the low pressure tracks to your north. This could even include Raleigh, Elizabeth City, Rocky Mount, Wilson. We'll have to take a look at that a little bit closer to the event. We look at the Energy Helicity Index, and we can see things are climbing here on Thursday, a threat for wind shear and some tornadoes starting to maximize around Texarkana late in the morning Thursday, and then especially Thursday afternoon over East Texas. Dallas, Fort Worth, Tyler, and then into the evening around Texarkana and Shreveport, and then spreading eastward across the piney woods of Texas into northern Louisiana and southern Arkansas. So Thursday evening, I think, will be our best chance at seeing some strong tornadoes somewhere in this region and here, but also some strong winds aloft could create some strong widespread wind damage. And if I show you the upper level heights here and the vorticity, and I apologize, Pivotal Weather kind of goes nuts here, you will see where the closed low goes, right over the Red River, a lot of lift here. And on the warm side of this, we see this including Mississippi and Western Tennessee. And as we go over to the southeast here, and I'm going to have to move my timestamp. Oh, gosh, come on. Let's do that. As we go to the southeast, we see a lot of lift, a lot of southwest flow aloft here Friday morning, and likely a setup for some severe weather Friday afternoon, again here in Georgia, South Carolina, and into North Carolina. The upper air moisture is definitely going to be in place here. Man, I wish it would just stay on the same. All right, you know what? I'm done. All right, I could talk about this 20 more minutes. I have some friends that do that, but I just thank you for your time today. We will have more on the severe weather, more on the late week snowstorm, but it's still 3 to 4 days out. So things are going to change, and please be patient with me knowing that that's going to be the case. As models narrow down on what's going to happen here, as we pin down the exact details, we're going to have a better view of things. But I've got to make a forecast at some point, and 3 to 4 days out, this looks like a big storm. And it looks like a very disruptive storm and one that could be very dangerous as well. If you could subscribe to my channel, you won't miss those videos. I'll have more tomorrow, and especially Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday as we pin down the future storm. And I just appreciate y'all's time. I thank you as loyal viewers and as first-time viewers, and I want to give all the glory to God who gives me the opportunity to do this and the strength to do this every morning. Colossians 5:22, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And Paul speaks to the church of Colossians, giving them these fruits of the Spirit of Jesus Christ. And the self-control one is the one I struggle with the most, because I'm going to be upfront with you all. It is very tempting to do what a lot of other YouTubers do, and that's to post some incredible, like, look at this videos, or oh my God, or wow, it's getting bigger, or holy. And you know what? As a meteorologist, I think ethically, as a child of God, that just isn't right. I would rather you guys see the truth from me as God speaks to me, and not just, oh my goodness, wow, I'm going to hype up everything. Because I would have a much bigger channel if I went in that direction. I know a lot of those folks do, because that's clickbait. People just click on it and they're like, holy smokes. And then, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, well, that didn't end up being right, or you guys really scared us. And yeah, some of us got bad weather, but not everybody did. And my goal is not to scare everyone. My goal is to speak the truth and to do my very best in using the tools that God gave me to speak to you. So it's a struggle every day to have the self-control to do this. But at the end of the day, nobody's perfect. The weather changes. This snow forecast I have out may change quite a bit. And it's tough, but I want to do my very best to keep folks safe and to alert you to what's coming. But I don't want to be, you know, oh my God, look at this, y'all, or look at the y'all-o-meter or whatever. That's just not how I'm going to be. So anyway, I'm happy to pray for you if you have any prayer requests, spoken or unspoken. And if you want to pray for me, I very much appreciate that as well. I really appreciate you all. I love you, and I thank you for your time today. And if you're in the storm threat zone, please be safe. I'm praying for your safety because I want you to be here and I want you to have a home and a place to lay your head at the end of a day of work. So I thank you all so much, and we'll talk again in the morning. God bless you.